What's happening, gang? Jim Keithley once again, home quarantine video question of the day. Just like some of my other questions, what I'm going to do today is try to consolidate 2 or 3 questions into one video. And the essence of this video is the question was, using my iPhone on the driving range, do you have any suggestions on how to best videotape my golf swing? Really good question, okay? Because there are some angles that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to. There's the proper way and improper way to video your own golf swing. So then I'm gonna expand and start talking about some checkpoints on what you need to look for when looking at your own home golf swing on your iPhone. So great question, come back with me, we'll give you the answers. Brilliant question. So the question once again is, how do I use my iPhone in order to record myself? Now, over the last 10 years, listen, all of anyone that plays golf has the same ability and the technology in their own hand of their iPhone. 10 or 15 years ago, the equipment that I used to video my students, I would have to have a camera that cost $1,000, a laptop that cost $1,000. We would have to have a tripod. We'd have to have software. Before you know it, you've got $5,000 of equipment. Now you just have your iPhone, and you can even use free apps. 2 apps that I would recommend: Swing Profile, that I've used a lot. It's a free app. And Huddle, that I use all the time. HUDL, Huddle. A lot of you have used it with softball or tennis. So you can use those free apps, or you can just use your basic camera on your phone. 2 ways to video. Now this is the way that golf professionals want it done, because it's important for us to communicate. We need to be on the same page as far as looking at video. Angles have a lot to do and can really distort what a golf swing looks like. So you have to be very consistent and very specific when it comes to placement of your camera. This is called face-on view. Pretty self-explanatory. You just need to be about 5 feet from the camera, and you have to have the ability to see your feet and the club at the top, okay? Pretty self-explanatory. Now, the down the line view, this is where we have to be much more specific. You need to be able to see your feet once again and your club all the way to the top. I don't know if I have enough room to do this right now, but you need to be able to see your entire club shaft, okay? Now, where the placement of the camera goes is very important. You want to be right, if you took your toes and went straight back, that's where your camera should be. If the camera was behind you like this, or way over here, that's going to have an unbelievable change or difference to the way that golf swing appears, okay? So be very specific and very consistent on your camera placement. Okay, now let's talk about checkpoints. What should we be looking at when we're actually viewing the video? So there's about 5 checkpoints that at least I pay attention to. Listen, you can talk to 10 different golf pros and they may give you 10 different answers, but I think the answer is going to be pretty consistent across the line. So the first checkpoint is just, where is your club, your golf club shaft, the first time it becomes parallel to the ground, okay? What I look for is that when my club becomes parallel to the ground, okay, for the first time, here's a different angle, parallel to the ground. Where is it relative to your hand position? So here's what we see a lot of. Boom, okay? Club is parallel to the ground, but the club head is way behind you. No good, no good. We want to be more about right here, okay? Now, see where my club head is in reference to my hands. That's about where you want it. If it gets back here, that's okay. If it gets way back here, no good. A lot of the tour guys, Brooks Koepka being one, his club is on this side of his hands. It's way over here, okay? So checkpoint number one, club shaft parallel to the ground for the first time on the takeaway, okay? You want to have it real close to your hand line. So the second checkpoint would be where your lead arm, so your left arm for right-handed golfers, the first time that the lead arm becomes parallel to the ground. So from a face-on view, checkpoint one, shaft parallel to the ground, okay? Checkpoint two, left arm or lead arm is parallel to the ground. For this case, we're going to be talking about down the line view. So first checkpoint, second checkpoint, okay? So now my lead arm is parallel to the ground. It's a very important part. What are we looking for at this checkpoint? The shaft angle. If you have the ability to put a line on the camera, we want to measure that. We want to know where that shaft angle is, right there, okay? When we do this, I've done videos on this. We're going to talk about lead or wrist conditions. At this position, we start to see your right hand start to do this and that. So, boom, which causes this shaft to lie down a little bit. So when your lead arm gets parallel to the ground for the first time, that's on the takeaway, measure where that club shaft is. It's a real important measurement, okay? So checkpoint number two, lead arm parallel to the ground for the first time. Checkpoint three would be transition. So when we get to the top, at some point your arms are rising and then they start to fall. Right in this transition is another important checkpoint. We want to know where our club shaft is relative to that position. And we're not going to talk a lot about that, but it's so important to know what the club face is doing. If the club face at the top is face up, that's a closed club face. If it's toe down, that's an open club face, and that's where most of you who hit slices, your club face is open, which is toe down. That's another checkpoint. So checkpoint number three is the top of the swing, where that club is in transition. Checkpoint four, it's the second time your lead arm becomes parallel to the ground. So this is a better angle. First time my arm is parallel to the ground, it keeps rising, transition, and now the second time that my lead arm becomes parallel to the ground, the important measurement here would be, we talked about first time, lead arms parallel, we want to know where that club shaft is. Now it gets to the top somewhere, and then it starts to either transition like this or like this. We want to know where this club shaft is the second time my lead arm gets parallel to the ground. Hopefully, what we're looking for is the first time my club shaft is like this, the second time my lead arm's parallel to the ground, I hope that club shaft is below it. We'll reference a video later and we'll look at those two reference points. Checkpoint four, the second time lead arm is parallel to the ground. Fifth checkpoint would just be impact. So obviously we want to know what our body looks like at impact. Talked a lot about these in previous videos. Okay, so we've gone through the other four checkpoints. We want to know what is happening at the moment of truth when the club face is making impact with that golf ball. We want to know what our body looks like. what our right knee's doing, what our right heel is doing, where our hand position is. So checkpoint 5 is impact. So here we go, my golf swing. We're going to look at all the indicators. First time, club shaft parallel to the ground for the first time. You're going to see where my club face is relative to my hands. It's outside, it's not inside. If you cannot see your club face at this point, you're in trouble. Second spot, left arm parallel to the ground for the first time. I drew a line where my golf shaft is. We'll reference that later. Transition. Here is parallel, left arm parallel to the ground for the second time. I put a green line at where my shaft is. You can clearly see that it's lower than the red. Club shaft parallel to the ground for the second time. You can see where my club head is relative to my hands once again. Here are my wrist conditions. Lead wrist is flat. Trail is extremely cupped. Impact position. Trail foot is off the ground where my weight is forward. You can see my hips start to open into a square shoulder position. Through impact into a high finish. Never play golf with your head down, people. Get your eyes and your chest up. Here's a better look at my leg work into impact. So basically what I've done today is put myself out of a job. I just gave you all the secret sauce on everything you need to know about fixing your own golf swing. Obviously I'm kidding, right? So within each of these segments, there are so many micro moves that you need to pay attention to that we didn't even talk about. So we just kind of scratch the surface when it comes to all of this. You need to pay attention to where the face is at all parts. You need to know what your wrist conditions are doing at all parts. You need to know if you're not in the right position at each spot, what are the cause and effects of those. You need to know sound and low point, all the functional things. So hopefully this was a little insight to what we look for as golf professionals. I see it all the time out on the range, a lot of you videoing yourself. So just be consistent. Do the same thing. Your camera work has to be in the same position every single time in order to compare swing to swing, right? So if you're videoing yourself today and then you go back a month from now, that camera angle has to be in that perfect spot. So I'm sure this video would probably cause more questions than answers were given, but I love the question and I thought it was important to let you all know. So once again, one day closer to being on the other side. Keep your head up, stay strong, stay safe. We'll see you next time.